Ever wonder why your legs feel weaker, even when your mind is sharp? It's a silent betrayal happening right under your nose. Your legs are giving out before your brain does, and most people don't even notice until it's too late. Here's the shocker. Science now shows that what you eat could be the hidden key to reversing this decline. If you're over 50 and worried about losing your mobility, this is for you. We're diving into the silent thief, exposing how your legs are screaming for help and revealing cutting-edge, food-based secrets to rebuild your strength. From ancient yogurt cultures to the surprising power of berries, we'll uncover nature's tools to rewire your brain-muscle connection. Stick around. Your independence depends on this. If this resonates, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and drop a comment with your biggest mobility concern. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Let's save more legs together. 1. Let's talk about a man named Bill. At 65, Bill wasn't your typical retiree. He had a collection of marathon medals that could rival a general's. The man ate 26.2 miles for breakfast. Then one Tuesday it happened. Not a dramatic fall, not a sudden injury, but something far more sinister. He was faced with a simple flight of stairs to his bedroom, a climb he'd made thousands of times. But this time, his legs just wouldn't cooperate. His mind knew what to do: lift, push, repeat, but the message seemed to get lost in transit. He stood there, staring at the stairs like they were Mount Everest, feeling a profound sense of betrayal from his own body. Bill wasn't just getting old. He was a victim of a neurological heist, a process so subtle it fools millions. It's called proprioception failure. Proprioception is your body's sixth sense. It's the silent, background awareness of where your limbs are in space without you having to look. Close your eyes and touch your nose. That's proprioception. It's the intricate web of nerves that constantly reports back to your brain about muscle tension, joint angle, and balance. It's your body's internal GPS. Now, imagine that GPS signal started to get fuzzy. At first, you barely notice. You might trip on a perfectly flat sidewalk and laugh it off as being clumsy. You might find yourself placing your foot a little more carefully when stepping off a curb. You start reaching for the handrail on stairs, not because you feel weak, but because you don't quite trust your legs to land where you expect them to. Your brain, sensing the garbled messages, starts to compensate. It tells your eyes, hey, I can't feel the feet anymore. You need to take over. So, what's the telltale sign of this silent neurological decay? It's hidden in plain sight. The next time you're at a grocery store, watch how people walk. Those staring intently at the floor aren't just being careful. They're flying blind. Their brain has lost contact with the ground control in their feet and has desperately ordered their eyes to take over navigation. They're walking with their eyes because their sixth sense is dead. This neurological decline is the first domino to fall. The brain, receiving poor feedback from the legs, thinks, well, I guess we're not using these muscles much anymore. And it stops sending the strong, clear signals needed to maintain them. The muscle fibers, no longer getting their marching orders, begin to shrink. The weakness you eventually feel is a symptom, not the cause. It's the final, tragic act in a play that started years earlier in your nervous system. But what if this wasn't a one-way street? What if you could repair that wiring? The solution isn't found in mindlessly chugging protein shakes or piling your plate higher at the buffet. The brute force approach fails because it's a communication problem, not a supply problem. What if you could find the specific nutritional insulators to repair this frayed wiring? These aren't exotic supplements from a lab. They're powerful compounds hiding in foods your grandmother ate, substances that act like skilled electricians for your nervous system. For the next day, try this simple experiment. Walk across a room, then walk across an uneven patch of lawn or a gravel driveway. Pay close attention to one thing. Where are your eyes? Are they looking ahead, or are they glued to your feet? The answer might just tell you how strong your brain-leg connection really is. 2. Picture this. You're standing at the bottom of a staircase, and your brain sends a crystal-clear command to your legs. Let's go up. But somehow, that message gets garbled along the way, like a bad phone connection. Your legs receive something more like, maybe think about possibly considering going up. Eventually, this isn't a problem with your muscles being weak. It's a communication breakdown between your brain and your body. Meet acetylcholine, the unsung hero of muscle movement. Think of it as the spark plug in your car's engine. Without it, you can have the finest engine in the world, but nothing's going to fire up. Your nerves can shout commands all day long, but without acetylcholine, your muscle fibers just sit there like teenagers ignoring their parents. Now here's where things get interesting. Your body makes acetylcholine from a nutrient called choline. And where do you find the richest, most bioavailable source of choline? In the golden center of an egg, the yolk. For decades, we've been living through one of the most well-intentioned health disasters in modern history. Remember those sad, pale egg white omelets from the 80s and 90s? While everyone was terrified of cholesterol and tossing those golden yolks in the trash, they were unknowingly throwing away nature's most perfect nerve-muscle communication system. The egg white gives you protein, the building blocks for muscle. But the yolk? That's where the magic happens. It's like having all the lumber to build a house, but throwing away the electrical wiring and the foreman who knows how to put it all together. But wait, there's more. Hidden in that same golden yolk is an amino acid called leucine. This isn't just any amino acid. It's like having a master key to your muscle-building machinery. Leucine flips a switch in your muscle cells called mTOR, which is basically the go button for muscle growth and repair. You can lift weights until you're blue in the face, but without enough leucine, that switch stays in the off position. The egg white has some leucine, but the yolk delivers a concentrated dose that creates the perfect 1-2 punch, the communication signal to fire up your muscles, plus the chemical key to unlock muscle building. Here's something your grandmother knew without reading a single research paper. Not all eggs are created equal. Those eggs from hens that actually get to act like chickens, pecking at grass, chasing bugs, living outdoors, they're nutritionally superior to their factory farm cousins. The yolks are richer, more orange, and packed with compounds that support your nervous system in ways we're just beginning to understand. So the next time you crack an egg, remember this. You're not just making breakfast. You're potentially rebuilding the communication highway between your brain and your muscles, one golden yolk at a time. But here's the thing about building a strong house. You need more than just good materials and clear blueprints. You also need to protect what you're building from the elements that want to tear it down. And when it comes to your muscles, there's a silent saboteur working around the clock to weaken them from the inside out. The good news? The antidote might be swimming in the cold, deep waters off the coast of Norway. 3. Your muscle cells are under siege right now. There's a silent demolition crew working 24/7 to tear down everything you're trying to build, and most people don't even know it exists. This crew is chronic, low-grade inflammation. Think of it as internal rust that slowly stiffens and suffocates your muscle cells from the inside out. Picture your muscle cell as a high-security building. The outer wall isn't just a dumb barrier. It's a sophisticated communication hub with doors, windows, and security guards. It decides what nutrients get in, what waste gets out, and most importantly, it receives work orders from your nerves. When inflammation strikes, that flexible, responsive wall becomes rigid and brittle. The nerve signals arrive at the building, but the doors are rusted shut. The message gets muffled, and your muscle fails to fire properly. This is where cold water fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines become your cellular repair crew. The omega-3 fatty acids in these fish, specifically EPA and DHA, aren't just healthy fats. They're the literal raw materials your body uses to tear down that old, brittle wall and build a new, supple, highly responsive one. They make your muscle cell membranes fluid and flexible again, so the doors swing open effortlessly when your brain sends a command. Here's what most doctors won't tell you because it's buried in research, not splashed across headlines. It's not about just popping a fish oil pill. The magic is in the ratio of EPA to DHA. Think of them as two different specialists on your construction crew. DHA is the architect, primarily building brain and nerve structures. EPA is the demolition and security expert. It actively targets and dismantles the inflammatory molecules, making your cells stiff in the first place. For fighting age-related muscle loss, the most compelling research points to a higher EPA to DHA ratio. This isn't just preservation. It's actively pushing back against decay. Now here's the part that might make you mad. You're thinking, great, I'll just eat more salmon. But you could be sabotaging your own efforts. Most salmon sold in supermarkets is farmed. Unlike wild salmon that feast on krill and algae in icy waters, farmed salmon eat corn, soy, and other grains. This diet fundamentally changes their fat profile. They end up with much higher levels of omega-6 fatty acids, which are pro-inflammatory. You're eating a food you think fights inflammation, but it's actually bringing more inflammatory agents to the party. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The proof is in the color. Wild salmon has a deep, vibrant red-orange hue from astaxanthin, a powerful antioxidant they get from their natural diet. Astaxanthin is what allows salmon to perform the insane muscular feat of swimming upstream for days. It acts as a personal bodyguard for your mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside every muscle cell. While EPA and DHA rebuild the cell walls, astaxanthin protects the power generators from oxidative stress and helps them regenerate. Farmed salmon are naturally a depressing gray. The pinkish color you see often comes from synthetic dye added to their feed. They have virtually none of this mitochondrial protector. When you're at the fish counter, don't just look at the price tag. Look at the color. Ask where it came from. The difference between wild-caught and farmed isn't just about taste. It's about whether you're buying a cellular repair kit or a pale imitation that could be working against you. Your muscles are counting on you to make the right choice. 4. For decades, red meat has been painted as the villain in a cheap suit, blamed for everything from heart disease to a bad temper. But what if the story we've been told is not just wrong, but a dangerous oversimplification that's quietly robbing you of your strength? What if the secret to recharging your legs isn't in a vegetable crisper, but on the pasture? The real issue was never the cow itself. It was the cow's diet. And this is where things get interesting. Your muscles have a very specific, high-octane energy system. Think of it like a high-performance race car. The immediate fuel is a molecule called ADP. But here's the catch. Your muscles only store enough ADP for a few seconds of intense work, like getting up from a deep chair or catching your balance on an uneven sidewalk. After that, you're out of gas. This is where the creatine phosphate shuttle comes in. It's your muscle's personal, instantaneous battery recharger. When ADP is used up, it becomes ADP, a spent battery. Creatine phosphate swoops in, slaps a phosphate molecule back onto the ADP, and instantly turns it back into high-energy ADP. This happens in fractions of a second. It's the system that allows for quick, powerful movements. When this system falters, your legs feel heavy, weak, and unreliable. You hesitate before standing up because your body knows the instant power isn't there. Now, where does the best creatine come from? Red meat. But here's the twist that changes everything. Grass-fed beef provides the most potent, naturally packaged version of this entire system. A cow that spends its life walking, grazing, and moving develops a robust creatine phosphate system in its own muscles. When you eat that meat, you're not just getting creatine, you're getting the molecular tools fully assembled. Grain-fed beef from cows standing in feedlots is a different story. It's like comparing an athlete to a couch potato. The meat is often lower in creatine and comes loaded with the very same demolition crew we met earlier. The grain-based diet loads the meat with pro-inflammatory omega-6 fats, essentially delivering the arsonist right to the fire you're trying to put out. So while you're trying to get a little bit of that muscle-fueling creatine, you're simultaneously consuming compounds that accelerate the breakdown of muscle tissue. It's like hiring a builder who brings a demolition crew with him. But the system is more elegant than just a power pack. It needs a delivery service. You've heard that red meat has iron, but that's a kindergarten-level understanding. The magic is in the synergy between heme iron and vitamin B12, both abundant in grass-fed beef. Think of heme iron as the fleet of oxygen delivery trucks. B12 is the logistics manager and the GPS. It ensures the oxygen gets to the right muscle cell at the right time and, crucially, helps the cell actually use that oxygen to generate long-term energy. Without enough B12, the trucks get lost and your muscles are left gasping for air, leading to that feeling of fatigue and weakness even with minimal effort. There's one more secret agent in this operation, a mineral most doctors completely overlook in the context of muscle repair: zinc. If creatine is the power pack and iron/B12 is the fuel delivery, zinc is the 24/7 on-site repair crew. Every time you use a muscle, you create micro tears. Zinc is the foreman that reads your genetic blueprint and directs the synthesis of new proteins to patch those tears and make the muscle stronger. Grain-fed meat often has its zinc bound up by anti-nutrients from the corn and soy diet, making it less available. Grass-fed beef delivers highly bioavailable zinc. It's the difference between having a repair crew on standby versus having to special order parts that might never arrive. So you can see the choice is not between eating red meat or not. The real decision is between a system that builds and a system that inflames. One is a complete, synergistic toolkit for muscle power and repair. The other is a compromised, pale imitation that can accelerate the very wasting you're trying to fight. The next time you're at the butcher counter or the grocery store, look past the prime cuts and the fancy labels. Find the words 100% grass-fed. Don't think of it as buying a steak for dinner. Think of it as buying a new set of batteries for your legs. The question to ask yourself is, what is your body's energy system currently running on, premium fuel or watered-down gas? 5. Your gut is running a 24/7 pharmaceutical operation that makes most drug companies look like corner stores. Right now, trillions of bacteria are manufacturing compounds that either tell your muscles time to rebuild or time to break down. The problem is, most people are unknowingly feeding the wrong team. Here's what's really happening in there. Certain bacterial strains produce something called butyrate. Think of it as a molecular peace treaty that travels through your bloodstream straight to your muscle cells. When butyrate arrives, it essentially tells your muscles to stop the constant state of emergency that keeps them breaking down faster than they can repair. Without enough of these peacekeeping bacteria, your muscles stay stuck in crisis mode, no matter how much protein you're eating. But there's another layer to this story that's even more fascinating. Every time you move, whether you're reaching for your coffee or getting up from a chair, your muscles work like tiny electrical switches. Calcium floods in to turn the muscle on, then gets pumped back out to turn it off. As we age, that pump gets sluggish. It's like having a light switch that gets stuck halfway. Your muscles never fully relax. They're constantly burning energy just to exist, and they fatigue incredibly fast. Now here's where the food industry has been playing a clever shell game with your health. Walk down any grocery aisle and you'll see yogurt containers plastered with live cultures and good source of calcium. Seems perfect, right? It's actually a beautifully engineered trap. The calcium part sounds logical until you realize you're dumping more water into a sink with a clogged drain. The real problem isn't calcium shortage. It's that your muscles can't regulate what they already have. Adding more just makes the traffic jam worse. As for those live cultures, here's the dirty secret. Commercial yogurt companies choose bacterial strains based on shelf life and texture, not your muscle health. They're using the bacterial equivalent of decorative houseplants when you need a construction crew. Worse yet, most yogurts are loaded with sugar, which is basically candy for the inflammatory bacteria you're trying to get rid of. You're essentially feeding the arsonist while thinking you're calling the fire department. Real gut rehabilitation requires going completely off script. Forget the dairy aisle. You need kefir grains, and I don't mean the stuff in the refrigerated section. I'm talking about actual living colonies that look like tiny cauliflower florets. These aren't grains at all. They're symbiotic communities of dozens of bacterial and yeast strains working together like a microscopic city. Here's the technique that transforms this from health food into medicine: the second fermentation. After your kefir grains have done their first round of work, strain them out and let that liquid sit at room temperature for another 12 to 24 hours. During this time, without the grains competing for resources, the remaining bacteria go into overdrive. They consume every last bit of sugar and pump out massive concentrations of B vitamins, folate, and those muscle-protecting compounds we talked about. You're essentially creating a targeted pharmaceutical in your kitchen that's more potent than anything you can buy. This isn't just about digestion anymore. You've just installed an internal communication system that can silence inflammation and fine-tune the mechanics of muscle contraction. But even the best bacterial workforce needs the right raw materials to do their job effectively. The most powerful muscle-building compounds aren't hiding in the supplement aisle or the meat counter. They're sitting in the produce section, disguised as ordinary vegetables. Certain plants contain specific molecules that don't just feed your beneficial bacteria. They actually flip genetic switches that tell your muscles to start growing again, regardless of your age. The secret isn't in eating more plants. It's in knowing which plants contain these molecular keys, and more importantly, how to prepare them so your body can actually use what they're offering. Because there's a world of difference between chomping on raw broccoli and unlocking its hidden muscle-building potential. 6. Your muscles are like a skyscraper built with the world's best concrete. But if the steel rebar inside is rusted and weak, the whole thing crumbles. That rebar is collagen, and most people are completely ignoring it while obsessing over protein powder. Here's what nobody tells you about collagen. Forget the expensive creams and fancy supplements. Real, functional collagen comes from the parts of animals that most people toss in the garbage, the joints, knuckles, and tendons that top orthopedic surgeons have been quietly using as medicine for decades. When you properly simmer these collagen-rich parts for 24 to 48 hours, you're not making soup. You're conducting a chemical extraction that liberates 3 powerhouse molecules: collagen, glycine, and glutamine. This isn't about flavor. It's about rebuilding your body from the inside out. First, you get collagen in its most usable form, gelatin. If your homemade bone broth doesn't turn into a solid, jiggly block in the fridge, you've failed. That jiggle is pure gold. It's the raw material that rebuilds the connective tissues anchoring your muscles to your bones, giving your movement stability and power. Glycine is the master builder of collagen itself. Without enough glycine, your body can't manufacture the structural framework that holds everything together. It's like trying to build a house without enough nails. Then there's glutamine, your gut's repair crew. This amino acid is the preferred fuel for intestinal wall cells, helping them patch up microscopic leaks that allow inflammatory particles to escape into your bloodstream and attack your muscles. Now here's the bombshell the food industry doesn't want you to know. Walk into any hospital and you'll find patients recovering from major orthopedic surgery being served real bone broth. But what they're getting is worlds apart from that watery liquid in grocery store cartons. Store-bought bone broth is often nothing more than flavored water with meat powders, salt, and yeast extract. It's a complete fraud. The therapeutic-grade stuff that surgeons actually value comes from simmering chicken feet, beef knuckles, and oxtails until you extract every molecule of healing power. The difference is dramatic. Hospital-grade bone broth is so rich in collagen that it's practically medicine, designed to provide the exact raw materials needed to rebuild shattered bones and torn ligaments. The grocery store version? It's basically expensive salt water with a fancy label. Making real bone broth isn't complicated, but it requires patience. Get bones with joints still attached. Chicken feet, beef knuckles, or oxtails work perfectly. Add a splash of apple cider vinegar to help extract the minerals. Then simmer for at least 24 hours. The longer you cook it, the more collagen you extract. You'll know you've succeeded when your broth sets up like Jell-O in the fridge. That gelatinous texture isn't just satisfying. It's proof that you've successfully extracted the collagen matrix that will rebuild your body's infrastructure. This is how you lay the foundation for strength that lasts. You're not just feeding your muscles. You're rebuilding the entire support system that makes movement possible. Every sip provides the molecular building blocks your body needs to repair decades of wear and tear. But even with perfect structural materials, you still need something to tell your body to actually start building. The most powerful genetic switches for muscle growth aren't hiding in animal products at all. They're sitting right there in your produce aisle, locked inside common vegetables that most people completely underestimate. The secret isn't eating more plants. It's knowing which plants contain these molecular keys and how to prepare them so your body can actually access their hidden potential. Because there's a world of difference between mindlessly chomping raw vegetables and strategically unlocking their muscle-building power. 7. The most powerful signals for muscle growth aren't hiding in animal products at all. They're sitting right there in your produce aisle, locked inside common vegetables that most people completely underestimate. The secret isn't eating more plants. It's knowing which plants contain these molecular keys and how to prepare them so your body can actually access their hidden potential. Because there's a world of difference between mindlessly chomping raw vegetables and strategically unlocking their muscle-building power. Here's what nobody tells you about vegetables. They're not just vitamin delivery systems. They're genetic reprogramming devices. Every time you eat certain plants, you're literally sending instructions to your DNA, telling specific genes to wake up and get back to work. Think of it like having a conversation with your cells, except instead of words, you're using molecules. Take arugula, for instance. That sharp, peppery bite isn't just flavor. It's a chemical signature of power. Arugula is loaded with compounds called polyphenol, particularly one named Kefir. When these molecules reach your muscle cells, they don't just provide nutrition. They march straight to your genetic control room and flip a very specific switch called PGC, 1-alpha. This switch controls how efficiently your existing muscle machinery operates. It's like having a foreman walk into a sluggish factory and suddenly everyone starts working at double speed. But even the best genetic signals are worthless if your muscles can't execute the commands. This is where the electrical system comes in. Every single muscle contraction is an electrical event, requiring a precise dance of minerals flowing in and out of your muscle fibers. As we age, this electrical system gets fuzzy, like trying to tune in a radio station through static. Your brain sends the signal to move, but somewhere along the way, the message gets garbled. Swiss chard is nature's electrical repair kit. It's packed with magnesium and potassium in perfect balance. Magnesium acts like the conductor of an orchestra, ensuring every electrical signal fires with crisp precision. Potassium handles the actual current flow. Together, they transform those weak, shaky muscle contractions back into smooth, powerful movements. It's the difference between a flickering light bulb and a steady, bright beam. Now here's where it gets interesting. You can have perfect genetic signals and flawless electrical systems, but there's still one more connection that has to work: the junction where your nerve meets your muscle fiber. This microscopic gap is your body spark plug. If it's corroded or clogged, nothing else matters. Your brain can send all the signals it wants, but they'll never reach their destination. The solution isn't found in leaves or roots. It's hidden inside something with a hard shell that you probably think of as just a snack. Walnuts contain a unique combination of omega-3 fatty acids and acetylcholine precursors that literally rebuild these neural connections. The omega-3s repair the nerve membrane, making it more responsive to signals. The acetylcholine precursors provide the raw materials for the neurotransmitter that actually carries the message across that tiny gap. But here's the catch, and this is crucial. Most people eat these foods completely wrong. They'll toss some arugula on a sandwich, microwave some chard until it's gray mush, or grab a handful of stale walnuts from a jar that's been sitting around for months. That's like trying to start a fire with wet matches. Fresh arugula needs to be eaten raw or barely wilted to preserve those delicate polyphenol. Swiss chard should be quickly sautéed with a bit of healthy fat to help your body absorb the minerals. And those walnuts? They need to be fresh, ideally soaked overnight to activate the beneficial compounds and make them easier to digest. The timing matters too. Your muscles are most receptive to these genetic signals right after physical activity, when your cells are essentially asking for instructions on how to adapt and rebuild. That's when a simple salad of fresh arugula with a handful of soaked walnuts becomes a powerful recovery tool, not just rabbit food. This isn't about becoming a vegetarian or forcing down vegetables you hate. It's about understanding that certain plants contain molecular keys that unlock your body's natural ability to maintain and build muscle. You're not just eating for calories or vitamins anymore. You're eating for information, sending your cells the exact messages they need to keep you strong, stable, and independent. The beauty of this approach is its simplicity. No expensive supplements, no complicated meal plans, no exotic ingredients shipped from halfway around the world. Just common vegetables, prepared correctly, eaten at the right time. Your grocery store produce section suddenly becomes a pharmacy, and you become the pharmacist who knows exactly which prescription your muscles need. 8. Your brain is sending signals, your muscles are getting the message. But there's still one critical link in this chain that most people completely ignore. It's the microscopic handshake between your nerve and muscle, the neuromuscular junction. Think of it as the spark plug of your body. When it's clean and properly gapped, you get crisp, powerful contractions. When it's fouled up, your brain might be screaming move, but your muscle barely gets a whisper. Here's the kicker. Most people are unknowingly starving this connection of exactly what it needs, all while thinking they're just grabbing a healthy snack. We're talking about nuts. And before you roll your eyes thinking this is another lecture about good fats, let me stop you right there. Calling nuts a source of healthy fat is like calling a smartphone a good flashlight. Sure, it's true, but it completely misses the point. Tree seeds, which is what nuts really are, function as nature's hardware store for your nervous system. They contain the specific nuts, bolts, and wiring insulation needed to build a perfect neuromuscular junction. But not just any nuts will do. You need the right combination, delivering the right minerals in the right ratios. Let's start with magnesium, the gatekeeper mineral. You've probably heard about magnesium for muscle cramps, but its role at the nerve ending is far more sophisticated. It prevents your electrical signals from becoming chaotic static. Without enough magnesium, your nerves fire randomly like a car engine with bad spark plugs. Almonds are your best bet here. Just 1 ounce gives you about 20% of your daily magnesium needs. But even the cleanest signal is useless if your spark plug is rusted out. The delicate membranes of your nerve endings are incredibly vulnerable to oxidative damage, basically microscopic rusting. This is where selenium comes in as your rust-proofing spray. It's the key component of an antioxidant enzyme that specifically protects those fragile nerve terminals. Here's the beautiful part. Just 1 or 2 Brazil nuts a day provides all the selenium you need. Any more than that, and you're actually overdoing it. Now you need the physical structure itself. Your nerve ending doesn't just float randomly near your muscle. It's held in precise position by a delicate scaffold. The enzyme that builds this scaffold requires copper. Without enough copper, the connection becomes physically loose, like a wobbly plug in a wall socket. You get signal loss and poor muscle response. Cashews and hazelnuts are fantastic sources for this structural mineral. Let's zoom in on your muscle fibers themselves, especially the fast-twitch ones you need for quick reactions, like catching yourself before a fall. These are your high-performance engines, and they burn out fast without proper protection. They need a dedicated bodyguard, which they find in a specific form of vitamin E called gamma-tocopherol. This isn't the generic vitamin E in most supplements. This particular form is uniquely suited to protect the very fibers that could save you from a hip fracture. Pecans and pistachios are loaded with it. Here's where things get controversial. You've been told that plant-based omega-3s, like the ALA in walnuts, are inferior because they don't convert well to the EPA and DHA you get from fish. This has led people to dismiss walnuts as a poor substitute for salmon when it comes to nerve health. This thinking is completely backward. It assumes ALA's only job is to become something else. But what if ALA has its own equally important role? Recent research suggests that ALA acts as a primary structural component for nerve cell membranes, especially at the neuromuscular junction. Think of it this way. DHA from fish builds your brain headquarters, but ALA from walnuts is the on-site repair kit for your local field offices, your nerve endings. You need both. Dismissing one for the other is like choosing between a foundation and a roof for your house. So how do you put this all together strategically? Instead of grabbing a random handful of mixed nuts, create specific combinations for specific jobs. For muscle building support, try almonds and pistachios together. The almonds provide magnesium to power the energy cycle of muscle synthesis, while pistachios deliver a surprising punch of leucine, the amino acid that flips your build muscle switch. But here's something most people miss about pistachios. They're also loaded with arginine, a precursor to nitric oxide. This molecule dramatically improves blood flow and nutrient delivery to your muscles. It's like upgrading from dial-up to high-speed internet for your muscle nutrition. The timing matters too. Your neuromuscular junctions are most receptive to these nutrients about 30 minutes after any kind of physical activity, even just a walk around the block. That's when your nerve endings are actively repairing and rebuilding. Having a small handful of the right nuts during this window is like sending in a specialized repair crew when they're most needed. For daily maintenance, rotate your selections. Monday might be almonds and walnuts for magnesium and ELA. Tuesday could be Brazil nuts and cashews for selenium and copper. Wednesday brings pistachios and pecans for leucine and gamma-tocopherol. You're not just snacking, you're systematically maintaining the most critical communication network in your body. The beauty of this approach is that you're working with your body's existing systems, not against them. You're not trying to override biology with massive doses of isolated compounds. You're simply providing the raw materials your neuromuscular junctions need to function optimally in the forms nature intended. Your daily handful of nuts isn't just a way to curb hunger between meals. It's a targeted delivery system for the microscopic hardware that keeps you moving, reacting, and staying upright. Every time you crack open a walnut or pop a few almonds, you're essentially performing maintenance on the spark plugs of your independence. 9. All right, let's talk about a food group that's been dragged through the mud for the last decade, especially in circles focused on building strength and staying lean. I'm talking about beans, lentils, and chickpeas, the legumes. For many, the word bean immediately brings to mind two things: carbs and indigestion. And in the war against sugar, these humble powerhouses were tossed out like yesterday's news, labeled as saboteurs of a low-carb lifestyle. This was a colossal mistake. It was like tearing out all the plumbing in your house because you were worried about a leaky faucet. By demonizing an entire category of food, we've been starving our bodies of a secret weapon for muscle preservation that works on a completely different level than anything we've discussed so far. Here's what makes legumes truly special for your legs. They're nature's most concentrated source of folate, also known as vitamin B9. Now, folate might sound like something your doctor mentions during pregnancy talks, but it plays a starring role in keeping your muscles young. Your body uses folate to manufacture new DNA and repair damaged genetic material inside your muscle cells. Think of it as the quality control department in a factory. Without enough folate, your muscle cells start producing defective proteins that can't do their job properly. But here's where it gets really interesting. As we age, our muscle cells accumulate what scientists call oxidative damage, basically cellular rust. This rust interferes with the muscle's ability to contract efficiently and respond to exercise. Legumes are packed with a unique combination of antioxidants, including anthocyanins in black beans and isoflavones in soybeans, that specifically target this type of damage. It's like having a specialized rust removal crew working inside your muscle fibers. Now let's talk about something most people have never heard of: molybdenum. It sounds like something from a chemistry textbook, but this trace mineral is absolutely critical for muscle function. Your body uses molybdenum to activate enzymes that break down sulfur-containing amino acids. Without adequate molybdenum, these amino acids can build up to toxic levels, literally poisoning your muscle cells from the inside. Legumes are one of the richest food sources of molybdenum on the planet. A single cup of lentils provides more than double your daily needs. Here's another game changer that's hiding in plain sight. The protein in legumes is uniquely rich in lysine, an amino acid that most other plant foods are lacking. Your muscles use lysine to cross-link collagen fibers, creating the structural scaffolding that holds your muscle tissue together. Without enough lysine, your muscles become like a building with weak foundations. They might look okay from the outside, but they can't handle stress or impact. This is why vegetarians who skip legumes often struggle with muscle quality, even when they're eating plenty of other protein sources. The digestive complaints about beans aren't a design flaw. They're a sign that your gut isn't prepared for the feast. The solution is ancient wisdom: Soak your dried beans overnight in water with a splash of apple cider vinegar. Then rinse them thoroughly before cooking. This process neutralizes the oligosaccharides that cause gas while preserving all the muscle-building compounds. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about legumes is their magnesium content. Magnesium is the spark plug of muscle contraction. Every time you take a step, climb stairs, or simply stand up from chair, hundreds of thousands of muscle fibers are firing in perfect coordination. This coordination depends on precise electrical signals, and magnesium is the mineral that makes those signals possible. Without adequate magnesium, your muscles start misfiring like an old car engine on a cold morning. A cup of cooked black beans provides about 120 milligrams of magnesium, roughly 30% of what most adults need daily. But here's the kicker. Surveys show that over 60% of older adults are magnesium deficient. They're trying to maintain muscle strength while running on empty batteries. The next time you're planning a meal, don't think of beans as a carb-heavy side dish. Think of them as a targeted delivery system for compounds your muscles can't make on their own. Every spoonful is providing the raw materials for DNA repair, the antioxidants for cellular protection, and the minerals for proper electrical function. You're not just eating healthy, you're performing maintenance on the biological machinery that keeps you independent and mobile. 10. Picture this. You're standing in the produce section, staring at a wall of colorful fruits, when suddenly a tiny blueberry taps you on the shoulder and whispers, "Psst, want to hack your brain?" Sound crazy, right? But that's essentially what's happening when you eat berries. These little spheres aren't just nature's candy. They're biological hackers carrying classified intelligence that can slip past your body's toughest security system. Your brain has a bouncer called the blood-brain barrier, and this guy is stricter than a nightclub in Manhattan. Most nutrients get turned away at the door, left standing outside like rejected partygoers. But the deep purple and blue compounds in berries, called anthocyanins, have the ultimate VIP pass. They don't just get in, they waltz right into the executive boardroom and start issuing commands. Here's where it gets interesting. These anthocyanin agents immediately get to work boosting production of something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Think of BDNF as premium fertilizer for your nervous system. It's like having a personal trainer for your brain cells, helping them grow stronger connections and build new pathways. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about memory or thinking clearly. This brain upgrade has a direct hotline to your muscles. Every movement you make starts as an electrical signal in your brain. When you need to catch yourself from tripping or stand up from a chair, your brain fires off commands that travel down neural highways to your muscles. As we age, these highways develop potholes, and the signals start arriving like a scratchy radio transmission instead of crystal clear digital audio. The BDNF boost from berries essentially repaves these neural roads, turning them into high-speed fiber optic cables. But here's the part that'll really blow your mind. Your body has two types of muscle fibers, and one type is basically your personal bodyguard. These fast-twitch fibers are your emergency response team. They're the ones that fire instantly when you need to catch your balance or push yourself up from a low seat. Unfortunately, these are the first soldiers to desert as we age, and their loss is like losing your reflexes in slow motion. Research has shown that people who regularly eat blueberries maintain these crucial fast-twitch fibers significantly better than those who don't. The BDNF surge doesn't just stay in your brain, it travels the entire length of your nerves, all the way down to where nerve meets muscle. It's like sending a repair crew down the entire length of a telephone line, fixing every connection point along the way. Now here's where I'm going to save you money and give you better results. Forget everything you've been told about fresh being best. When it comes to berries, your freezer section is actually your secret weapon. The flash freezing process creates ice crystals that act like tiny explosives, shattering the tough cell walls that normally keep those precious anthocyanins locked up tight. It's like having a demolition crew break, open a safe for you. Those frozen wild blueberries often pack more accessible nutrition than the fresh ones that have been sitting on trucks and shelves for a week. And let's talk about wild blueberries specifically. These aren't your garden variety, plump supermarket berries. Wild blueberries are smaller, darker, and more intense, like the difference between a house cat and a mountain lion. They're packed with nearly twice the anthocyanins of their cultivated cousins. So when you're reaching for that bag of frozen wild blueberries, you're not just buying fruit. You're purchasing a targeted software update for your brain-to-muscle communication system. Half a cup a day isn't a snack. It's a daily dose of neural maintenance that could be the difference between confidently navigating stairs at 80 and needing help getting out of chair. The beauty of this approach is its simplicity. No complicated timing, no special preparation, no expensive supplements. Just a handful of frozen berries that taste great and happen to be rewiring your nervous system from the top down. Your future self, the one who's still climbing mountains instead of watching them from a window, will thank you for every purple-stained spoonful. 11. If you walk through any grocery store today, you'll see avocados everywhere. They become the poster child for healthy eating, smeared on toast, blended into smoothies, and hailed as a source of good fats. But focusing on the fat content of an avocado is like describing a smartphone by only talking about its glass screen. It completely misses the revolutionary technology hidden inside. The real story isn't about the fat. It's about how this fruit acts as a master electrician and a power plant foreman for your muscles. Let's start with the most misunderstood part, the fat. The monounsaturated fats in avocados aren't firefighters rushing to put out flames. They're the architects who build with fireproof materials from the start. These fats integrate themselves into the membrane of your muscle cells, fundamentally changing their structure. Imagine replacing flammable wooden walls with fire-retardant bricks. When inflammatory signals arrive, they find nothing to ignite. This process creates a calm, stable cellular environment, allowing your muscles to receive nerve signals without the static and interference that usually comes with age. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn. A stable muscle cell is useless if the commands it receives are garbled. Your muscle control system can't just have a gas pedal where you'd crush every egg you try to pick up. It also needs an equally sensitive brake and clutch. This requires a sophisticated balance of neurotransmitters. Avocados are critical for producing this steady and stop signals, most notably one called GABA. They do this by providing a massive, highly bioavailable dose of vitamin B6, a non-negotiable building block for these calming neurotransmitters. Without enough B6, your nervous system is all accelerator and no steering wheel. This is why some people experience muscle twitches, shaky hands, or a frustrating inability to perform fine motor tasks, even if their muscles are technically strong. They lack the neural precision to control the power they have. Eating an avocado is like hiring a master tuner for your central nervous system, ensuring that the signals sent to your legs and hands are not just strong, but exquisitely controlled. It's the difference between swinging a sledgehammer and wielding a scalpel. Now for the part that even most nutritionists don't know about. Buried within the avocado is a unique molecule called avocatin B. Recent, cutting-edge research is revealing that this compound does something extraordinary inside your muscle cells. As we age, our cellular power plants get lazy. They become inefficient at burning fuel, leading to fatigue and muscle decline. Avocatin B enters the mitochondria and essentially reboots the system. It forces the mitochondria to burn glucose with much higher efficiency, generating more energy with less waste. This isn't about just providing more fuel. This is about fundamentally upgrading the engine itself. It's like taking a sputtering 20-year-old car engine and installing a modern fuel injection system. The result is more horsepower, better mileage, and less toxic exhaust. For your muscles, this means more power to get out of chair, more endurance to walk up a flight of stairs, and faster recovery after any exertion. Think about what this means for your daily life. That moment when you stand up from your favorite chair and feel your legs wobble slightly. That extra breath you need at the top of the stairs. That stiffness in your hands when you try to open a jar. These aren't inevitable parts of aging. They're symptoms of cellular power plants running on empty and nerve signals getting crossed. An avocado a day might be the difference between confidently navigating stairs at 80 and needing help getting out of a chair. The beauty of this approach is its simplicity. No complicated timing, No special preparation, no expensive supplements. Just half an avocado with your morning eggs or sliced onto your evening salad. As you eat, don't just think about the taste. Consider the possibility that you're not just eating food, but installing a sophisticated biological software update. Your future self, the one who's still opening jars and climbing stairs with confidence, will thank you for every creamy green bite. 12. Knowledge without action is just expensive trivia. This protocol operates on precision, not volume. 3 meals, 3 activations, 1 complete neural reboot. The morning ignition happens within 60 minutes of opening your eyes. 2 whole eggs, half an avocado, handful of dark berries. Think of it as your daily neural startup sequence. The activation is deceptively simple. Stand up from your favorite chair and sit back down 5 times without using your hands. No pushing off armrests, no grabbing the sides. This forces every nerve pathway you just fed to actually fire up and report for duty. Your midday reinforcement centers around either wild-caught salmon or grass-fed beef, paired with a large salad featuring arugula or Swiss chard as the base. The protein rebuilds, the greens direct traffic. Follow this with a 15-minute walk. But here's the twist. Keep your eyes up, looking ahead instead of down at your feet. Feel each heel strike, then roll to your toe. This isn't cardio. It's live training for your balance system using the exact materials it needs. The nightly repair crew starts an hour before bed with warm bone broth and a small handful of mixed nuts, focusing on almonds and Brazil nuts. No meal here, just the raw materials for overnight reconstruction. The broth rebuilds connective tissue while the nuts service the electrical connections. Arthur, a retired history professor, had turned his 2-story home into a single-floor prison. Those stairs to his beloved library had become Mount Everest. He started with just the morning protocol. By day 4, his coffee cup stopped shaking in his hand. 3 weeks into the full routine, his daughter found him casually carrying books downstairs from his library. The fear had simply evaporated. Arthur never joined a gym or started jogging. He just changed when and what he ate. Start with 7 days of morning ignition only. Eggs, avocado, berries, 5 chair stands. Your body will provide all the evidence you need. When your hand stops shaking while reaching for your morning coffee, when you notice yourself taking stairs without gripping the handrail, when you realize you've been standing at the kitchen counter reading the newspaper instead of immediately sitting down, you'll understand that this isn't about diet. It's about rebuilding the communication network that makes confident movement possible. The protocol works because it respects your body's natural repair schedule. Morning feeds the command center, midday delivers construction materials, evening stocks the overnight repair crew. No complicated timing, no special equipment, no monthly subscription boxes. Just the right crew with the right tools showing up at exactly the right time.